topic for this video is going to be the expectations for the writing portion of the IELTS examination. I want to walk through exactly what the expectations are for you as you compose your essay so that you can know what to focus on as you study and get that good score. Now, one of the open secrets of the IELTS and really any standardized test is that you've been told exactly what you're expected to do. The IELTS publishes the rubric, which is the set of rules and guidelines for how your essay will be scored. And the humans that score your essay have to follow these rules. So it makes sense to take a deep look at what those rules are. They're out there on the web, and if we can dive into them and understand what they're talking about, then we can help you focus your efforts as you prepare for the written portion of your exam. So here is the IELTS rubric from the IELTS website. You'll notice there are 4 columns. Those are the key categories that reflect the quality of your essay, and those are the key things that scorers are going to focus on. And then in each column, you get a breakdown of what a score in a certain band level needs to have in terms of those key considerations. So this looks really complex and it looks confusing, but we're going to break it down and help you understand exactly what all of this means. So the first column is called task response. And for everything else in there, what you need to take away is that task response measures whether you've completed the task. And when you're writing an essay, your task is to address the posed question with support in a logical way with good grammar. So general question, have you done your job? Have you written a clear essay that addresses the question you've been asked to address? So if we take that general concept and dig into some of the specific standards, here are a few of the key phrases you want to keep in mind as you study when you think about completing the task. The first is you need a fully developed position. So this means you need to state that position with a good, clear thesis, and then you have to expand on it with body paragraphs that are going to raise examples or evidence to help your reader understand why you've taken the position you have. It's basic essay structure. The second bullet point kind of falls within that first bullet point, and that's, do you support your ideas? Do you have body paragraphs that elaborate on the answer you've given in your introduction and in your thesis statement? And then finally, you need to make sure you do everything. So if the question asks you to consider different pieces of a broad topic, make sure you address each of those pieces. You want to make sure that you are addressing all parts of the prompt as you compose your essay. The second column might sound really complex, coherence and cohesion. Well, what does this mean exactly? And like the first column, it's actually pretty straightforward. This category means, is your essay organized? Is it coherent and cohesive? Those are just fancy words again for organization. And good organization in an essay is pretty straightforward. You need a clear thesis, you need topic sentences, you need a summary of your argument, and you need to provide relevant background information. Now we're going to talk about each of these in just a bit more detail, but if you want to take a deeper dive on any of these elements, I encourage you to look at Ecree's other videos on YouTube where we dive into these components of an essay in a lot more detail. So we need to organize our essay. Let's look at some of those key phrases as we did with the previous column. The first bullet point that I want to emphasize is paragraphing. Your body paragraphs need to be well structured, just as your introduction needs to be well structured and your conclusion needs to be well structured. Again, Ecree has videos that look at each of these paragraph types in more detail, and I encourage you to look them up on our YouTube channel. But for the purposes of this brief run through, I'm going to talk about each paragraph's expectations very briefly. In an introduction, the key things you need are background information and a clear thesis statement that addresses the question. In each body paragraph that you're writing, you want to start with a clear topic sentence. You want to provide evidence or an example that is relevant to the point you raise in that topic sentence. And then you need to provide some analysis. You need to explain why that evidence or example is relevant to the point in your topic sentence. And then in your conclusion, you want to make sure you summarize your argument and provide your reader with a closing thought. That's what we mean by paragraphing. Each paragraph type has a particular structure that it needs to exhibit in order to get a good score. The second bullet point, you need to organize your information and ideas. It's the same general approach that we just discussed in each paragraph type. You want to start with a clear statement of where your position is in response to the question. You want to build out that position in those body paragraphs. And then again, you want to summarize your argument in the concluding paragraph. The final bullet point, we've already mentioned it a couple times, but it's worth lifting out specifically. You need to present a clear central topic. This is your thesis statement. This is your answer to the question you're writing about. Make sure you have a clear central topic stated, i.e., make sure you have a good, clear thesis statement in your introduction. If you have all these elements, you're going to have an organized essay. The third column is called Lexical Resource. Again, a complicated way of saying something pretty straightforward. This is about how you use language in your written work. What does the language in your essay do? Are you using it effectively? Is it relevant to your topic? So some of the key bullet points to keep in mind in terms of concepts within this column. Bullet point number 1, range of vocabulary. You want to make sure that you're not using the same language over and over again. You don't want to use a bunch of simple words. You don't want to use only complex words. You want to mix it up. Use a range of vocabulary, and this will demonstrate to the grader of your essay that you have broad lexical abilities, that you can use different words and build a discussion with rich language. The second bullet point is called controlling lexical features. Now, when you use words, you want to make sure you are using them correctly and effectively. So, simple example, don't use a really long word just because it's long. Make sure that you're using longer words, specific terms within your topic effectively. And that means that you're using them because you need them to get your point across. If you can get your point across with simple language, you want to do that. You want to demonstrate again in your writing that you can control the words that you're choosing to develop your ideas. And this sort of ties into that third bullet point. You want to convey precise meaning, and precise means as much as you need to get the point across. So again, don't just dump a bunch of adjectives and adverbs into your writing. Don't use big words just for the sake of using big words. Make sure that the words you're using have a reason for being used. So only use that more complex language if there's a specific reason for using it that you want to accomplish. Now, the final column is pretty straightforward. It's probably the easiest to understand of those 4 columns. It's grammatical range and accuracy. This just means, are you varying the structures of your sentences and using appropriate grammar to do just that? So can you use grammar effectively to help vary the writing that you're going to provide in terms of sentence structure? So let's look at those bullet points again to understand what this might mean in terms of specific things to focus on. The first bullet point, a range of structures. Simplistically, think of this as sentences that are short and long. Like your word choices in the previous column, you want to vary things up, and this will give a sense of kind of texture in your writing. Graders like to see that you can use different versions of sentence length to talk about your ideas. The second bullet point is nested under that first one. And as you have a range of structures, you want to make sure that you're not making mistakes. So if you're building longer sentences, make sure your punctuation that's going to combine different pieces of that long sentence is used correctly. Okay, just make sure that you are avoiding grammatical mistakes as much as possible. It's important to remember graders don't expect perfection. You're writing an essay under time circumstances, so some small grammatical mistakes are going to be okay. What you want to avoid are too many mistakes or obvious mistakes. You want to avoid the errors that can make it look like you're being sloppy or you don't understand. Final bullet point, good control of grammar. This is kind of a combination of those first 2 bullet points. As you're varying the length of your sentences and using different pieces put together, make sure that you're using grammar as part of that sentence development process. That demonstrates an understanding of language. So show control of grammar through varying your sentence length. And that's it. Those are the 4 categories that you need to focus on to write a good essay. Again, the rules are spelled out clearly, so go look at them, read them, understand them, and then hopefully this walkthrough will help you zero in on the specific things you can study as you prepare to write the essay. So to close, I want to highlight a couple of additional videos that you can look up on Ecree's YouTube channel. As mentioned, several things that we talked about in this video briefly. Ecree offers more in-depth videos to help you study and understand what these things are. So if you want to dig in a bit more, I encourage you to look up these videos on our YouTube channel. For the time being, remember the rules are right there. You can go read them and understand them, and that can help you focus your preparation. And ultimately, that's going to help you get that score that you want on your IELTS essay. Good luck on the test, and we'll look forward to having you in further videos that we're going to put up on this channel.